Okay, so here's what it's going to be for me tonight. I'm going to have me a nice Moscato cold wine tonight with my liver and onions, gravy, and rice. So this is what it is. I don't know of a great, pretty presentation with gravy and stuff like that with liver and onions. So this is about as good as the presentation gets with me, guys. I'm going to so enjoy this. This is what we have. May throw some of that, some more gravy on there, since I want a drowning of it. I love that wine. So here's the productivity of my my plant, my peppers plant. Excuse me, my peppers plant. How awesome is it? It's doing so wonderful, and I'm going to be getting a whole bunch of extra green peppers up here. Look at this. This is doing so awesome, isn't it? I'll give this one more day or so. 1 to 2 more days. I'm cooking too much food. I got to eat some of this stuff down before I, cook some more. So, yeah. Okay, so here's some of the things that I'll be using to make my liver, onions, and gravy. I'm going to use some flour, some onions, my green peppers that I got from my garden. Here's the liver. I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm a weird freak, so I always rinse my my liver off. I don't like all that blood stuff or whatever, so I just rinse it off before I start using it. And we're going to need a little cornstarch, a little flour to make our gravy. I'm going to use a little bit of beef stock. I'm also going to use a little bit of beef onion dip seasoning, and this is green onion dip seasoning, and I'm going to use a little sazon. Very little. I may use a little bit of salt and pepper, fresh pepper, garlic, and some liquid aminos. So, and that definitely we're going to use some butter and some grapeseed oil. So this may not be the most healthiest meal, so don't judge me. Let's just get started. Okay, so I just basically separated this into 2 bowls. It's not because it's a lot of it, but I just want to season it in these bowls, and I don't have anything really that I can just really spread it out the way I wanted to. So I'm just going to use these 2 bowls, and I'm going to use season them in these bowls, and then we're going to just dip them in flour, and then we're going to start to cook them in the pan. So let's just get started with the seasoning first. I'm going to use half of the sazon package. This is what I use just to do a little seasoning. You don't need a whole lot of this, because if you haven't used sazon before, it's fairly strong. So basically I use half of this package on this. So, and then I'm going to use my green onion dip. This is pretty strong stuff too, so I'm not going to use a whole lot of this either. And in fact, I'm going to put it in my hand because it's kind of, I had it sitting up in my cabinet and it didn't, got kind of stuck together. So I'm going to just kind of break it up here and just season it. Yeah. I'm not going to use a whole lot of it. Just a little bit. Kind of give it a good. Okay. Now that we've got that together there, I'm going to use a little bit of beef onion. This is the Lipton. You can use this or not use it. I just kind of like it if you're using beef. I'm going to put it in my hand so I can see what I'm doing to kind of measure it out or whatever. I don't want to overdo. I didn't use much of this at all. This goes a long way. This is some pretty powerful stuff. And I'm going to use a little sea salt. Oops, not the big part. Just a tad bit of that. You don't need a lot of salt, guys. You really don't, you know, because your gravy and stuff will be the seasoning that you need. And then I'm going to do a little bit of pepper. Okay. I'm not a big fan of this pepper right here, but I'm out of the fresh pepper that I really want. You know, until I place my online order to go in my pepper shakers, this is what it has to be. Okay, so we're going to let this sit, marinate for a little bit. I'm going to get the pan prepared, and we're going to use a ton of butter probably and grapeseed oil. So don't judge me, because I told you that this may not be the most healthiest meal for you guys. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so here I put some butter in my pan, and we're going to prepare this. We're going to prepare the liver to go into the pan. I like using butter, but I also like using grapeseed oil too. So remember that we're going to be making a gravy out of this, and like I said, this may not be the healthiest for the people who are vegans and trying to watch what they eat and gluten-free and all that other stuff. This may not be the recipe for you, you know, because of all the butter and stuff like that. So every now and then I really like to indulge and treat myself, you know. So yeah, this is what I do. So let me get my bring my flour over here, because we're going to be, I'm gonna move some of this stuff out the way. We're going to use this later on. So yeah, let me just set this to the side and make some room here so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. Basically, we're going to use this a little later too, so I'm going to set that to the side. We're going to use this a little later too, set that to the side. And yeah, so I'm going to start off with just the butter in the pan, and then we're going to go ahead and dip this. So I only season one side. You don't have to flip it and season the other side. You don't want to overload with seasonings, because this beef liver holds your seasonings pretty good. So don't overdo anything, y'all. I'm going to use my hands because I wash my hands, and then, you know, these pieces are pretty long, so I'm just going to kind of set them in here and, you know, saturate them so that we can set them in the pan. I think that'll be enough for now. I might have to, let me see if I got a small piece over here. Okay, yeah. I'm just basically gonna, you can do this with a fork or spoon or whatever you want to do. No, I don't mind getting my hands a little dirty. Good chef don't mind getting their hands dirty. Y'all know, for the most part, I don't do flour for a lot of stuff, you know, but every now and then, you know, should I decide to have me a liver or so, then I'll indulge in a little flour. I even fry a lot, like my chicken. I don't use flour for the most part. I fry it naked, you know, and you still get that crispy crunch. It'd be delicious without, you know, I don't know why, like, some people like add like 1,000, you know, seasonings to chicken and stuff like that. Regular kosher salt and fresh ground pepper, you know, would do the trick, you know, and give you that still that Popeyes kind of taste thing going on. So I got my flour, my butter going at a little sizzle here, as you can see. I'm gonna fit in here what I can fit in here without overloading my pan. I should have cooked that bigger piece, shouldn't I? I should have put that in there first. Let me see, it's enough room for that, ain't it? Let me see. This is kind of big. I'm gonna squeeze it in there, because I want this bad boy bad. That's not gonna fit in there, is it? Let me see if I can make some room. So your fire should be up medium high. That'll fit. It'll fit. Nothing else is getting in there though. I'm gonna have to do a second round. That fit this perfect. And I'll put this in the second batch. So for now, I'll set it in here and marinate it, and let it sit in the flour. And we're going to let this get a little crispy. I'm going to turn the fire up a little bit because it wasn't quite up enough. And we'll come back and check on it in a few moments. Okay, so as this cooks a little bit, I'm just going to kind of move it around to see if it's ready to be flipped. And, you can tell if it's ready to be flipped because it has a more stiffer move. It's not quite ready yet, but as you're frying it and you notice that the butter is going out the pan, I'm not going to add a little bit more butter. I'm going to add my grapeseed oil. You can add either one. I like using a combination of both. So it's not ready to be flipped yet. You don't want to flip it too early because it'll break, and you don't want a really messy liver. So give it a few moments, and then you can kind of move it around here a little bit and see if it's ready to be moved. I can tell it's not ready to be moved. If I flip it now, it'll definitely break. So give it a little bit here and we'll come back to it. Okay, so I think we're ready to flip here. And I'm going to go ahead and flip this one in the middle. And if you break it, it's not a big deal, because so many of them come in small pieces anyway, You just don't want to be overly anxious about flipping it. This is how it should look. A nice kind of golden brown. And turn this one this way because it fits better in the pot that way. The other pieces I will fry later. So I'm going to add just a tad bit more butter to this. I don't want it to be dry or anything like that while I'm cooking it. Because my butter and my oil, it seemed to have melted out. I'm telling you, butter just gives this a great taste. And when you make your gravy and everything with this, it's superb, I'm telling you. All right, yeah. So it doesn't take long to fry this, guys, but while this is frying, let's go ahead and just get started with our gravy mixture. In here, I have a little cornstarch and I have a little flour, and I'm going to add a little bit of beef stock and water. I'm adding water to mine because I don't want it to be overly beefy and everything like that. A lot of the beef flavor is already going to come from the liver, so, and the beef onion dip that I already used, so if that makes any sense. These beef stock broths go a really long way for you if you don't use them all the time. And I'm going to just add some water to this. This is what's going to make our gravy thicken. Okay? I'm gonna just work the kinks out of this. Okay? You don't want it overly runny, but you don't want any clumps in this. But you want it kind of like a paste to a certain degree. So yeah. Okay, so we have flipped this, and so we're going to start making our gravy while everything is already in the pot. So I'm going to move a little fast here because I don't want my stuff to overcook and burn and things like that. So I'm going to add, wait a minute, I'm doing this backwards. yeah, I'm gonna add my onions and my green peppers because I want them to saute just a little bit. I don't want them to be overly crunchy. And I've got some big onions in here, chopped in like bulks, because I love onions with my gravy. So that's how I'm going to do that. And so I have my cornstarch, my beef broth, my water, my flour. This is what's going to make our gravy. I'm going to add my favorite, my garlic. I love adding garlic. So this will be the time to add my garlic. Will be now. And I'm going to add parsley. I have parsley out in my yard. And it's doing really well, but for this particular recipe, we want to use the flakes, okay? Which is, I think is pretty cool. You can never go wrong with parsley. You can just dump what you want on there, okay? And now I'm going to start to add my broth with my cornstarch and flour. Woo, making a mess. So I'm going to get those onions in there a bit. In between, I'm going to turn up my fire just a little bit because when you add that liquid in there, it slowed down the cooking a little bit. So we want to juice the cooking up. Okay? You just lift it up a little bit so that liquid could get up under my liver. You know, and as this cooks, you'll probably be adding a little bit more so you can have a thicker gravy. If you want to loosen it up, you know, you add a little bit of water. Of course, when you're making homemade gravy, you have to play around with things a little bit, you know, so until you get the right consistency that you want, you know. I want a little bit of thickness, you know, so I use all of that. Is what we're going to do with that. And don't be afraid to turn up the heat a little bit, okay? So I'm also going to add a little bit of my liquid aminos. I'm going to give it a little bit of flavor, and this is kind of like a substitute for salt. I've always said that. You don't have to add a lot of this because this stuff is pretty powerful. And I'm going to add a pinch of salt. Not much. That's enough. And of course, my ground pepper. I don't like this pepper. To me, it's not as strong. But like I said, I'm out of what I really enjoy, you know, and I gotta order some more. So yeah. And for some, I am going to add a little bit of hot sauce. You don't have to do this. I like to do it. A little hot sauce. For flavoring, a little spice. And we're going to let that cook. We're going to let it do its thing. We're going to play around with this. We're going to let it simmer. You know, I might add a little water depending on how, you know, thick I want it or how loose I want it. Okay? We're going to come back to this. Okay? I'm going to add a little bit more water. This is going to be good. Gravy, you wanted to get it right. I'm telling you, you definitely got to play around with it. And remember how many pieces you put in your pot. You know, because you'll forget what's in there, and then one of them will be burning if you forget to turn it. Okay. I'm gonna make like some looser gravy because I wanted to go over my rice. Okay, this is what I'm looking for right here. I might add a little bit more water, but this is literally almost perfect right here. This is almost perfect. Yeah, just a little bit more, I think we'll do. That was perfect. I think that's gonna do it right there. And I'm gonna cover this. I'm gonna let it simmer for a little bit, and then we're gonna come back to it in a little bit. Okay. There we go. Okay, so this is turning out to be pretty wonderful. Let's just take off the top here and see what we have. Oh yeah. Yep. I'm gonna set this top. Where do I set this top? Hold on one second. Let me set this top down. So I actually cooked some rice. I made some rice. So I'll be plating my rice, my liver on the plate of rice here. And y'all know my presentation. Y'all know how I am with that. So this is looking fabulous. Look at this. This is looking great. Look at this. I like a little thick of a gravy. I don't want it too loose. You know, this is perfect. This is perfect. Yeah, this is awesome. Okay, you know, you can do this individually, but since this is just me in my house, I'm going to dump some more hot sauce on it. Yeah. And then we're going to go with that. And I'm going to plate this, and then I'm going to have my dinner. I was going to make the tomato bread to go with it, but it's a little bit more time consuming. I'm going to do a separate video on that. I wanted to have it with this, but doesn't look like I'm going to be able to wait. I want to have this like now. So, yeah, let's come back and I'll have this plated up and we'll go forward from there. Later, guys.